Hello, hello. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. And today we are here for episode 172. Now, today is a special day because theoretically we are live streaming into LinkedIn for the first time. And theoretically we are live streaming on Facebook. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to click over and check those platforms and see if we're streaming, and then we will continue on here. So bear with me. Let's do an update on Facebook. Let's see if I see us. All right. And I do see us on Facebook. So that is so far so good. And theoretically, we are also streaming on LinkedIn. And so this is entirely uncharted territory for me. And I am views. There we go. Oh, look at that. It does say live. Holy cow. That just filled my whole screen. All right. Look at this, people. We're live on LinkedIn. All right. I'm excited. Can you tell I'm excited? All right. Look at that. Love it when technology behaves. And I want to give a special shout out to my team, Jessica and Stephanie and Carlos and Carly and Allison and everyone that's involved, because it's been a little while that we've been trying to get this LinkedIn streaming to work, and it looks like we made it happen. So let's go ahead and let's get this show started. So Automation Unplugged is brought to you, as always, by my day job at One Firefly, where I am the CEO and founder. And today, for show 172 of Automation Unplugged, I have Donnie Boutwell, CEO of Media Systems out of Houston. And let's go ahead and bring Donnie on. Donnie, how are you, sir?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
No, man, my pleasure. So what do you think, man? We're streaming live not only on Facebook, but we're streaming live on LinkedIn. Isn't that neat?
I'm so impressed with your setup, man. I studied radio and television production in college, and man, you got it down. You got the colors, you got the lens, you got the imagery. I mean, it's just really top notch, man. So kudos to you. And I guess that's what happens when you do something that many times in a row. You get better, you get better, you get better. It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, anyone that has watched the show or listened, because we do have a listening audience through the podcast, they'll have noticed that we've strived. We have not always succeeded, but we have strived to try to get a little bit better every month, every quarter, every year as we go forward. And it is really, I mean, if not to digress too much, but you and Jacqueline, your wife, you guys are like rock stars on social media. And that's, I mean, I follow you guys.
Thank you. I don't know if I'd say rock stars, but it helps when you have a really hot wife that's in the industry with you, and people like to see her face. So
I imagine she is drawing more of the clicks and shares than you are, but no judgment. That's funny.
Believe it.
But if you think about the technology, really, I mean, like right now you're in Houston, I'm here, and here we are now streaming out to such a powerful audience, our industry, on multiple social platforms. And that we could, and I don't have it set up, but I could also be streaming out on YouTube right now live as well.
Wow.
It's just the technology. I don't know, man. It's progressed so much in just the 4 years I've been doing this show.
Yeah.
I go back. I even watched a few of the shows not too long ago, and I felt a little bit like we were in the dark ages. But
it's so nice that people can watch a show that is every bit 100% specific to their world and learn from other people that are doing what they're doing, learn from you. I mean, you've got to be such a wealth of knowledge after doing so many interviews with people in this industry. You've heard it all. And so what a great opportunity for people to tune in and listen to what you have to say because of the experience that you have. I mean, you're not going to get this on television. Thank God for the technology that we have today to be able to get to people. When I was in college, I knew my uncle had this business and I knew a little bit about it, but I couldn't really explain what it was. I didn't know, but in most of the people you bump into in the world, friends from high school and college, you tell them I'm in the home automation industry, or how do you even describe it? Like, oh, we do home technology. Oh, you hire somebody for that? Really? Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, this whole industry, we have trade shows that people go to where there's like tons of people that do what we do. What do you do again? Well, it's technology in your home. Okay. But for those of us that do it, to be able to connect with each other on a show like this is such a wonderful privilege because we can identify, we can learn, we can share ideas. It's a wonderful opportunity.
No, I appreciate that. And I agree. I think, our industry is still a secret. No one outside of our friends in CEDIA and maybe a handful of others even know this industry exists. Mm-hmm. And yet we're doing in my opinion, some of the most fun, exciting types of invention. The projects are, to say they're science projects, that's bad, but to say they're fun and exciting and they bring joy to your customers' lives. It's an exciting Hey, I was excited. Lutron hired me out of college 21 years ago.
Wow.
And I was excited about this. Of course, I did not come from this world. I had never been exposed to this stuff. And when they put me into this business unit, and they were multi-billion-dollar business on in many countries, the random chance of fate, they put me into this channel. But I got so excited, I never left.
Yeah.
All right. Well, our audience is wanting to know, let's just go through some of the basics or foundations. Where are you guys based? What type of jobs do you guys do? Maybe tell us just a little bit about Media Systems, and then I want to digress and go into your background, but I'll lead you there. Go ahead.
Sure. So we're similar to a lot of AV companies in that we've been around for a very long time, but a few years ago, maybe a decade ago, we had to go through that struggle of, are we going to be an IT company or not? And so that was a big transition for us where we had to learn those disciplines too. And so we provide a lot of the things that, people watching this show would provide, like, control systems. We hang TVs, we hang speakers, do whole house music systems, surveillance cameras, doorbells. Who would have thought we would have taken over the doorbell? One day we'll be taking over the kitchen, and we don't want to, but we're going to have to. So we're all of those things. And I used to say we do everything that's low voltage in the house that you don't want to touch, but we don't deal with the high voltage. And then we hired one of our very close family friends to come on staff who had been an electrician for 20 years. So now we're dealing with some of that stuff too. So it's all of the things the CEDIA channel kind of looks at, or HTA Certified is another organization that we're real proud to be part of. And it's voice now, it's all of the things, but there is that blend that we don't like, which is getting the DIY things that people are demanding blended in with the things that people don't do themselves or don't want to do themselves. So there is some percentage of DIY stuff that we'll involve ourselves in, small, but most of what we do is stuff that you don't do yourself. And we like to joke that the worst part about DIY is you have to do it yourself, and they don't want to do it themselves. So that's kind of the world we're in. The projects that we're involved in, it's hard for me to say a range because we focus our business mostly on service. And so the people that we do projects for a lot of times are the people that we have been doing projects for many years. And those relationships are very important to us. So we may do a $300 service call or a $150 service call, and we might do a $150,000 or a $500,000 whole home installation when it's a new project. But we feel like those relationships are very important because many people change homes as often as I might want to get a new car or a new mattress. They're going to get a new home. And so keeping that long-term relationship with them is important. So we're not afraid to do the very small project for somebody that we've known for a long time. And we're not afraid to provide service for people that don't spend money, because in 8 years, they might spend a lot of money. So those relationships are very important to us. And that's kind of it's a good range of the projects that we do.
Geographically, do you primarily work in the greater Houston market, or do you find yourself traveling around the country to follow your customers?
That's a really good question. We have a footprint, and Houston has a inner loop and then an outer loop and then a giant loop. And so we focus mainly on the inner loop and a little bit to the west side. So we would say River Oaks, Memorial, Tanglewood, West University Place. We don't really prefer to work out in Spring or Katy or Tomball, the Woodlands. But we inevitably are going to make friends with somebody when they live inside of our footprint, and they're going to ask us to work outside the footprint, and we're going to do it. So we work in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We work in Ruidoso, New Mexico. We work in Florida. We work wherever those friends take us, we'll go. But we're not actively marketing ourselves as a nationwide company. Now, for many years, we would say that we couldn't provide service if we couldn't get to the house. But today we have over 300 customers on our overseas platform. So we are able to provide a lot of service remotely. That's relatively new for us as a company. That's been, I guess about 3 years that has been a viable solution for us, maybe 4, but so that means we're willing to go further, but we're not looking for it.
I'm curious. I'm going to dive down the rabbit hole, then I'm going to come back, and I actually want to go into your past and how you got here. But I'm just, you've piqued my curiosity in terms of oversee. For those that are listening that don't know what that capability that's providing you, do you mind describing that and how you're better able to serve your clients? Because
So I've got a client. He's a drummer of a rock band that you would know, and he decided to move to Magnolia, north of Houston, and so I play drums and percussion at my church, right? So I'm on the stage on Saturday night, and I get a text message from this guy, and he says, my Wi-Fi is not working. And so I'm looking at the phone, and we're in between songs. It's like somebody's up there talking for a minute. We're about to play again. So I've got about 2 minutes maybe of talking before I got to play music again. And I'm on stage. So I've got my phone here. I'm kind of hiding it behind the congas. And
you're doing a service call from the church stage behind the drums.
Yes. Okay. So I pull the app up on my phone, and I pull up his house, and I see all of the connected devices on his Wi-Fi. I see there's 9 access points that are totally functional. I see devices, roaring through. I can see the internet speed, all of this great data to tell me that nothing's wrong at his house. There's nothing wrong. So I text back and I say, what's not working? And he says, my wife can't get on with her iPad. And I say, is it a new iPad? Yeah, it's a new iPad. I say, oh, well, here's the SSID, the network name, and here's the password to get her on the Wi-Fi. And he texts back about 30 seconds later, oh, that was it, thanks. And that was the service call. That was the whole thing. Now, if you rewind that 5 years, if somebody called and said, my Wi-Fi is not working, my response would be, I'm so sorry. And I would feel guilty. Like, I'm so sorry, your network's not working. I thought we did everything we could do to take care of you, and I can't take care of you right now because I don't know anything about what's happening at your house. And so we'll try to come out on Monday first thing. I'm going to cancel my project and I'm going to come out there first thing on Monday. And we would drive all the way out to Magnolia, and guess what? It would be fine. There'd be no problem at all because there's nothing wrong with the system. She just couldn't get on with her iPad. So that's the benefit of what this remote maintenance stuff can do for us these days. We're able to reboot trivial things like my Apple TV is not streaming and I don't know where it is. It's up in a closet somewhere. And they'll text our hotline. We have a service hotline that they can text or call. And so we'll check the app, reboot the Apple TV, text back. Is it working now? Yeah, that was it. Thanks. I mean, we're able to do so much without having to go out to somebody's house. And it took a year of using this stuff before I believed it was going to be reliable. But once we're using it, we then were able to develop membership plans for people that includes this remote maintenance. If they don't have a membership plan, then they can get an extremely discounted rate for a remote service call compared to driving out to the house to do it. So remote maintenance has been a game changer for the industry. And I think it's given our customers a lot of confidence in this stuff where, if they're wealthy and they've had automation for 15, 20 years, they would say this stuff never works. If they just got wealthy and they've only had a system for 2 years, they don't say that because we're able to provide such unbelievable service through remote management, better than we've ever been able to do before.
I'm curious, have you been able to build a revenue stream? You mentioned plans. Are the plans, various stages of monthly fees they would pay and get different types of service? And is that, a measurable amount of revenue coming in monthly or quarterly?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And we, because some people will, we have different categories. So we've got your basic, your premier, your VIP, and so the VIP plan is custom pricing. So somebody, that's got a $1 million system, their VIP plan might be $12,000 a year, depending on how old the equipment is. We've got a calculator that Chase, Chase Murphy is our CTO and the smartest person that I've ever met in my life. And he came up with a calculator for this. And so if somebody's got a system that costs $650,000 and the system is 8 years old, well, that should cost more than somebody who's got a brand new system that doesn't require as much effort on our part. Mm-hmm. And if somebody's got a smaller system, maybe they don't need a VIP service and they can just do a basic membership or a premier membership. So there are different benefits that you get from each category. And some of our homeowners, they don't even want to have to put batteries in a remote. They don't want to change a light bulb, So they're the ones that are ideal for the VIP membership. They just love the confidence that they can get from us, knowing that somebody's going to take care of me, whatever it is. And half of the text messages we get are not even our problem. But they want to know that there's somebody they can ask. Like, I can't get my pool pump to come on. Is that the Crestron system? Well, no, ma'am. It's the pool system. But I tell you what, I know your pool guy, and I'll call him for you, and I'll let him know that he needs to come out, and I'll let you know when he said he's coming out. And that, just having that confidence, somebody's going to take care of me, has been a game changer for us too.
Donnie, I want to go back in time. How did you get in this business? I know you had a stint in Nashville. Maybe you go back as far as you want and bring us forward.
We got into it kicking and screaming. It's interesting to look at the way your parents, do things. And my uncle stood out above all of my other family. My dad and my mom and stepdad, and they all had good careers and good businesses. But Steve stood out because he was doing something on his own. He was breaking ground. He started our company in 1980. And I grew up around it. I saw it. And when I was 12 years old, I said, Uncle Steve, I really would like to have like a cool stereo in my room and like be able to hear my TV sound on my stereo. And so he gave me these phase technology speakers with a subwoofer and an NAD system, Nakamichi cassette deck. I mean, it was freaking awesome. And
You
I
had
didn't
the
even
most
know.
amazing 12-year-old bedroom stereo system out there.
It was incredible. And so we would go to his house or to his office and watch movies when I was a kid on the laser disc. I mean, it was cool stuff. So I thought, this is really cool, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I grew up playing drums, and I thought I would do that. And so I studied music. I spent a little time in ministry. And then I, at some point, got into doing recording and engineering full time and playing drums in the studio full time. And that led to touring around the country. And then it led to migrating to Nashville, because that's where the industry really was for me. And so I was there for, I was maybe 8 or 9 years in Nashville, making records. And when I got there, I had done all this producing, engineering, recording, and playing live in Houston. And when I got to Nashville, I didn't know that many people. So everybody that I met said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "Well, I'm a record producer," and just said that very confidently. And so within a few months, I was actually making a living as a record producer, which was great. And I was working out of a home studio. That was a time when there was a big transition from the big format studio to the home studio. And it was a lot of fun. I met Jacqueline on the road. She moved to Nashville then to do full-time photography. And she's an incredible photographer, unbelievable. And so then we started having kids, and the economy started tanking in 2008. I don't know if you remember that.
That's when I decided to start this business. I tried to time it perfectly.
Yeah. And I was on the phone with Uncle Steve, and I said, "Steve, I think all of my clients are poor." And he said, "Well, that's funny. All of mine are rich, So I said, "Well, I think I might be in the wrong business." He said, "Yeah, I think so." And I already had some construction background just out of hobby. I took a cabinet making class. I did woodworking. I did home improvement things. And so when I first came back to Houston, he said, "Well, it's kind of like the grandpa shoving you in the closet with a box of cigars, saying, 'You're going to finish that before you come out.'" He put me out on this ranch house that he had, and we were flipping it basically. And we reclaimed lumber from one house to flip this other house, and the house was 100 years old. So I had to, and he wouldn't let me hire any subs, hardly. So I had to learn how to do the trim carpentry, of course, the framing, the wiring, everything, every single part of the house. I had to learn how to do it. And because he didn't think I knew how to do anything. And I think he thought I didn't have any work ethic. Like I never worked a day in my life until I worked for him. And so I had to learn everything about the home from this little microcosm. And I went back and forth from working on that property to being the helper at Media Systems. So when he needed the extra work at Media Systems, I'd be there. And when he didn't need a helper there, he'd put me back on the ranch. And so that was the first year. And then I came on full time at Media Systems. And I'm telling you, my first day on the job was, "Why don't you see if you can help George carry something?" Because he didn't think I knew how to do anything. And we got in and we go into this theater, and there's like a snap together screen. And I had done this church work. So like I pull out a box. I'm like, "Well, I know this is a frame. You just open up the frame, you snap it on." And, like that. I knew audio because I had spent a decade mixing and mastering. So I knew sound way better than these guys that I was working with, but they knew the trade. I didn't know the trade. But I knew quality of production, quality of sound. And Jacqueline, with her photography background, she knew quality of video. Anyway, so at some point, the guy that was doing the lighting programming left the company. And Steve said, "Well, you're going to have to go change this lighting program." I was already computer savvy, but I didn't have the slightest idea how to get into D3 Pro Crestron software and change something on a lighting program. I said, "Steve, I just don't know how to do that." And he's like, "What? It's like monkey see, monkey do. Haven't you seen somebody do it?" I'm like, "No, Steve, you have to take a class to learn how to do that." He's like, "Well, all right, well, fine. Education is expensive. I hope you're happy. And it says, "Go figure out where you can take a class." So it's like, okay, well, I can fly to Phoenix next week and I can take a class and learn. Okay, fine, book it, go. So I went, I learned how to program lighting, and I came back as a lighting, then I was a lighting programmer. And then the guy that was our lead AV programmer left, and I had already taken the Crestron 101 training, but that was a year before. And so I didn't remember hardly anything to do in simple Windows. And so he says, okay, well, you need to go over to this house and change out from Comcast to DirecTV on all the remotes. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that, you know? So the guys that were in the service department at Crestron saved our business. They were just incredible. I would call them on the phone. Sean O'Neill, Mark Harrison. I would call them on the phone, and they were in Dallas. I'd say, hey, Mark, it's Donnie again. Oh, hey, bro, how you doing, man? I mean, they're so kind, you know. What are you looking at? Well, I'm trying to change this driver. Okay, remember on 101 that we did this, blah blah blah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. But how do I do this? And, I mean, they were just incredible the way they held my hand and just saved our company. You know, at the time it was incredible. And so at some point, I found Chase Murphy, and we started hiring him to do programming on bigger jobs and to teach me how to program. And so we literally would just bring him over and, you know, or I call him on the phone and say, okay, bill me, you know. And so my uncle, you know, he I didn't realize what he was doing, but he was putting other responsibilities on me over those years when he was there. And so the next thing I know, you know, we're filling out forms for Cinematech or somebody. And I say, well, Steve, I'm supposed to write down a title here when I sign this form. What should I put? And he said, I don't know, put vice president or something. I'm like, oh, I'm the vice president.
I got a promotion.
I didn't know I was the vice president. So anyway, so it was good because it was like, hey, go over to the house and meet with the client. And then tell me what happens and we'll design a system together. And then it was, okay, go meet with a client and design a system and I'll look at your proposal, you know. Then it was, okay, go ahead and present that to the client. You know, I mean, he was backing out of responsibility and putting it on me to have the opportunity to do it. And so I literally had every single job at the company. I was pulling wire, and then I just gradually moved up until I was at a point where I was, you know, basically, you know, right there with him. And Jacqueline, my wife, we're in between people in the office, and he said, why don't you have Jacqueline come in and help out in the office? At least she could learn how to do this so that when we're in between people, we'd have somebody to fall back on. And so she came in, and she never left. So
he knew what he was doing all along.
Oh yeah. And what was brilliant about the plan with her, the way he mentored her, was to say, do this for me. Now do this for me. Did you remember to do that? Well, what about this insurance thing? Did you take care of that yet? And she's like, well, I didn't. What insurance thing are you talking about? Well, you have to do this, obviously, you know. And she's like, oh, okay. So she, over several years, just was doing more of the finances and the back end side of how to run a business. And she's brilliant with all this stuff. I mean, she got me completely out of debt, and it's unbelievable. So she was learning how to run the business side. I was learning how to interface with the client and how to manage the project. And so then one day Steve came in like he normally does and was just hollering at me about something that I, you know, couldn't do right, you know. He said, you're just going to have to figure this out, you know. And he left, and we were like, where is he going, you know? And so then he didn't come back in the next day, you know. And then he didn't come back in the next day. And we're like, so I don't know if you ever saw the movie Boiler Room, but this is an amazing scene where Ben Affleck says to the team of young candidates, you need to act as if you're the president of the company. Act as if. And I had just seen that, and I was thinking about that, and I thought, you know what, if he's not going to be here, he's expecting me to man up and take responsibility. And so Jacqueline and we're going to have to just act as if. And then this went on, and he continued to not come in, and we had some conversation, but he was not coming in. And so then finally, it was gradually him disappearing. And he tells my mother a couple of months later, "Oh, well, I gave him the business, you know?" And I'm like, you what? It was never like an official, okay, let's transfer the ownership here. But that was his way of doing it. And it was just such an incredible gift, an incredible blessing from him. I mean, we're the kids, he doesn't have his own kids. We are his kids. And we just couldn't be more thankful for his legacy and his name. We would walk into a meeting and say, I had a designer say to me one time, you're with Media Systems, right? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, that's Steve Driskell, right? And I said, yeah, that's my uncle. Do you know him? And she said, well, no, I don't know him, but I know of him, And
Yeah.
so in Houston, in this small circle, he was a name. He really had a name for himself. And for him to leave that legacy to us has been just one of the greatest blessings of our life. And we've done everything we could to be good stewards of that. And so at some point, I say to my staff, I offered Chase Murphy a job. And he's a Gold Master Certified restaurant programmer, right, in Houston. And there's only 2 in the residential market in the country, from what I understand. I said to my staff, I offered Chase Murphy a job, and they said, the Chase Murphy?
Chase Murphy?
Yeah, I said, yeah, the Chase Murphy. And they're like, oh my God, is he going to take it? I said, I don't know. I think he's going to take it. And so Chase came on, and it was just such an incredible relationship to have him there, and to be able to have somebody that has got more training, more experience, more expertise than me, than anybody. And we couldn't think of any greater title than CTO, Chief Technology Officer. I mean, he is truly the smartest person that any of us know. And we're so thankful to have his influence in our company. And so then it was a little bit of a shift in the way that we do business, because my uncle felt like he had to have his hand in every pot, and I don't think that way. I went in my early 20s. My first job was at a church, and so it was an organizational thing where you have this position, and that guy has this position above you, and that person's above them, and you don't break the chain of command. You respect people. You treat people with kindness. You do the thing that you're gifted to do. You're not just a warm body. You do the thing you're passionate about. And so we've structured our company as best as we could to do that. And so we have project manager, we have a service manager, we have structure in what we're doing. And so we're not trying to micromanage everybody's job, but but also the way that we talk to each other is so important to me. The way we treat each other is so important to me. And I think it's a wonderful place to work. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity that we've had to kind of grow up in this industry and get to the place that we're at today.
We've got some people, Donnie, that are tuned in, watching us live here. Lots of comments. So I want to thank you all out there for posting your comments live. I'm just going to put a couple of them up on the screen. Sean Sturmer, he says, "What an uncle." I think that's an understatement. And then we have Wes. He says, "What a story, a nonchalant passing of the torch." That is a pretty spectacular. And then we have Rich.
Hey, it's Rich.
There's Rich. Rich says his title is CMCTOGCCP. Now, thank goodness in his next post here, he tells us what that is. Chief Technology Officer, Gold Certified Crestron Programmer.
Yeah. Rich, I have to tell you about Rich. Rich is my bro. He was a professional Nashville bass player, and friends of friends, and we got to know each other and hung out with each other when we were in the recording business. And he did a lot of live work too, and just a phenomenally talented guy. And now works for Ring, so he's brilliant. So awesome to see a lifelong friend that also transitioned from that industry to this one.
I want to maybe dive in just a little bit or a few of the differences. You've already kind of keyed in on one of them, and that is the concept of micromanagement, or I'm just going to say that maybe the management style of your uncle versus your management style. Mm-hmm. How were they different? And maybe expound on that for me.
So his business model was such that he would meet with the client, do the reconnaissance on the project. He would design the system, write the proposal, sell the job to the client, get the signature, make sure the deposit came in, put it in the bank, meet with the builder, go back to the job, and then project manage the job all the way to the end, show up with the guys at pre-wire. Here's what you're doing. That's going here. This is going there. He would create the documentation, project manage all the way to the end. Then he would commission the job. He would meet with the client and teach them how to use everything. Then he would get the payment and he would put that in the bank. And then when they called for service, he would schedule the service call. He did everything in the chain. And the way that he grew his business is he hired somebody that did what he did. And they did everything start to finish, from client relations to project management to everything, all the way to the end of the job. And then he grew the business again and hired somebody else that would do the same thing. So basically he was running like 3 different companies where he's doing everything in the process of the job that he does. So, or the job that he sells. Now, I also was late to the game here. I came into the company and within about 5 years learned all the positions and made my way to the top. But I had tradesmen that worked for me that had been in the industry for 15 years. And so obviously there are things that they knew how to do that I didn't know how to do, that I could trust them to do better than I could do myself. Not that I didn't pull wire, but if you got a guy that's pulled wire for 15 years, you ought to listen to what he has to say. And so I looked at that a little differently, where I thought, well, I've got every person that is sitting around the table with you is an expert at something, and they're probably going to be better at it than you are, one thing or another. I've got a guy named Brad who is just so talented, and we have these pictures we put out on social media that we do hashtag Brad tested, where he's standing on or hanging from a TV bracket. And it's hilarious when he does it. But that man knows how to everything about that. And he's a project manager. And I called him yesterday because I had a builder asking me about where do you put the power outlet behind the TV if you don't know what TV it is yet and what brackets you're going to use. And so what are some standards you could come up with? So who did I call? I called Brad, because he's an expert at that. And so our way of functioning is different in that we don't micromanage everything. And I believe that what we're doing is very scalable, and that we can meet with a client. Jacqueline and I'll meet with a client. We'll sell the job, start the design with some concepts, but then we hand it to John, who's been a professional systems designer for a decade, and he's brilliant, and he's the one that's going to think, you didn't think about that patch cable, did you? So he's going to be the one that actually writes the proposal now. And so then I'll get that back from him, and we'll go back and forth a little bit on price point for things, and then we'll meet with the client and sell the job, close the deal, and then we turn it over. At least that's what we intend to do, is we sit down with our staff, the project manager, Chase, the installers, and go through the project, go through our scope of work, and we turn it over to the project department. And so then I maybe don't even set foot on the job until it's done. And then they may commission the job and visit with the client entirely, and I don't even see them. But sometimes they'll say, well, this customer really needs a lot more hand holding for some reason. Do you mind going back over there? And so then Jacqueline and I might show back up again to just smooth it over and say, okay, well, I know that Brad or whoever already showed you how to use this, but I just want to see if you have any questions. Can we walk you through anything? And so we may go back. I don't really see the day-to-day finances. I get the big picture, and I don't see every transaction. Jacqueline sees every transaction. That's the main thing that she's focused on. The main thing that I'm doing all day, every day, is talking to clients and writing the scope of work, which we do that in a narrative form with as plain English as possible. And so I'm working on that. She's dealing with the numbers. Chase is making sure that everything is technically correct, and he reviews John's proposals for accuracy, technical accuracy, which usually doesn't need to, but he does anyway, because it's good to proofread each other. And he may have some involvement in project management when there are things that need to change and we need to provide change orders, and Chase may be involved in that. I may hear about a change order. I may not. Sometimes it's in passing. Oh, by the way, they added a TV. They wanted a bigger TV.
So what do you say, Donnie, to the folks that are listening that have struggled with delegation? They have struggled with not having their hand in every facet of the business. I know that there are those watching or listening that are going to say, oh my goodness, how does he do that?
Yeah. So I'm a dad, and I can just picture myself walking behind Rylan, my middle girl, with 3 girls, and she's a toddler, and she's just starting to walk. She's 12 now, but when she was just starting to walk, you put your hands on each side of her shoulder, and you let her fall a little bit, and then you try to take your hands off, and then you catch her, and then you catch her, and then you take your hands off. And after doing this long enough, I don't have to walk behind her anymore. She can do it, Feldstein, the founder of Crestron, has a wonderful quote that you can find where he talks about the black marble principle. He says, so I reach into a jar and I find a black marble. And then the next day I reach in and I find a black marble. And so I don't reach in. And then 3 days later, I reach in and I find a black marble. And so I'm pretty sure what I'm going to find in there is black marbles. And I maybe don't need to reach in, but maybe every week or so. And so he's drawing the analogy of how do you do this with your employees? You reach in. And so we have this morning meeting. We sit down, we talk about our projects, we talk about our service deals, and we ask questions. And that's just reaching into the pot to say, am I going to find a black marble? And if I find something different, then that's when I put my hand on their shoulder and I say, do you think that it would be a good idea to call that person and tell them about the schedule this week, because they haven't heard from us in a week or so, right? Yes, you're right. I should call them. That is. And so a lot of it is it's parenting, it's mentoring, but it's also allowing people to fail. I've had situations where I had a previous project manager who put his foot in his mouth in front of the client, and I had another employee say, I was embarrassed to be working for Media Systems that day. I can't believe he said that. And when it got to me, I sat down with the employee and I said, did you say this? What happened? So just like I would say to my daughter, did you get an F on that paper? What happened? I would say, I'm not going to. You
don't kick her out of the family for that F, do you?
Believe it. Yeah. And so I, in that situation, called the builder on the phone and I said, hey, Philip, it's Donnie. I heard about the conversation that happened between you and this guy. And I know the client was standing there, and I just want to tell you, I'm really sorry. It shouldn't have happened that way. And I have talked to the employee and corrected him and explained to him that that's not the way that we talk to people, and that's not the way that we do business here. And this is how we're going to handle this. Is that okay? And he was gracious, and he continues to hire us today. So many times what will happen, it's a very competitive business. You'll irritate a builder and you don't even know it. And one of your employees irritates a builder and you don't even know it, and they just quit calling you. They call somebody else. And so if you see that happening, you call the builder on the phone. How are we doing? Did y'all still working? So, I think a lot of it is it's parenting. It's allowing people the opportunity to fail. but it's also knowing when to reach in. It's knowing when to provide that gentle, respectful, kind correction. These people that work for us, they need to know that it's okay for them to make a mistake. It's like your child. They need to be able to screw up and come back to you and say, hey, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done this or that, and you should have the kind of relationship with them where you can say, okay, it's not a mistake if you fix it yourself. Do you want to go right now and fix that? Or do you want to, when can you go? I think I can go, because I don't manage their schedules anymore either. That's another thing about this generation, is that if you're being told you're going to be at Joe Bob's house from 8:30 to 11, and then you're gonna have 30 minutes for lunch, and you're gonna go straight over to Colleen's, then they don't like to think that way. They want to feel like they have some power over their lives and what they're doing with their time. And so I don't even do that. I don't say, what time are you going there and how long is it going to take? Usually I will say, well, here's the list, of service calls. What do you want to do today? And then that gives them the opportunity. Derek, my service manager, has got such incredible empathy. He's wonderful. And he'll say, well, I know that Barb is really irritated right now. She's really upset because she can't control the temperature in the casita, and she's got guests coming in there, and she's like mad, so I'd really like to go there first. Is that okay if I bump fielding to 10 o'clock? Because I feel like Barb's upset and I need to go right now. Well, sure, that's up to you. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you where to go every second of every day, but I am telling you that you're right. Barb's really pissed off. So what can we do?
Let's go get her happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So giving people some sense of pride in their work, in their life, and the ability to make decisions for themselves, correcting them carefully and thoughtfully and with kindness and respect. That's how you do it. And then eventually you don't have to reach in the jar, because it's going to be a black marble when you reach in there, because you know that person because you've been working with them long enough.
Love it. I'm mindful of time, and I've got so many subjects I want to dive into here with you. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna jump into the branding question. Although this show's not about marketing, mm-hmm. On occasion when I see good examples of marketing, I like to call it out and have you speak to it. So I'm gonna share, for those that are watching, I'm gonna share on the screen your corporate. Well, I want you to even maybe explain how you position it. Because if I go to your website, which I'm sharing on the screen now, which is mediasystems.com, which is a great URL, by the way.
Thank you. Paid a lot of money for that.
I was like, that could not have been cheap. Yeah. And at the bottom of your website, there's your Instagram icon, along with a few others. And when I click on that, it does not go to a Media Systems Instagram page. And that is very much by design. So maybe Can you talk the audience through what you guys are doing and what sort of testing and measuring you've done over the years?
Yeah. So I feel like if you're doing commercial, you need to look commercial. And if you're doing residential, you need to look like Friends. And we made some real effort 5-6 years ago to try to get people to like and follow and Media Systems on the internet, and nobody seemed to care. And so we saw that Jacqueline on her personal Instagram and Facebook was getting, she put something up and 150 people or 200 people would like it or click on it or whatever. And so we feel like what we do, we're in your home, we're in your master bedroom, we're in your master bathroom, so it's very personal. And so we decided to be intentional about marketing Jacqueline and Donnie rather than marketing Media Systems. And it's not just this cold, business marketing thing. We just want to stay in touch with people and let them know what's going on with us. So there's a mix of our personal things that we're willing to share and our professional things that we're willing to share. And so there's some guidelines that go with that. Like, I may have a strong political opinion about something, but I'm not going to put it online. just not going to do it. I mean, that's not what I'm called to. And I have friends that I feel like are called to be the one to put their causes out online, and good for them. I'll click the like button on their posts. But since we have such a broad range of people that we work for with different ideas, we just try to show the positive, the pleasant, and the cool things too. Like we put in this one of the first new Sony $90,000 projectors that just released this year, and we're so excited about that. We just put it out there, and we had friends that like it, that could never buy that projector. That's okay, but their parents could, or their grandparents, or their parents' friends could. And so just, having in whatever you can do to increase your circle of influence is good for business, but it's also good for your life, because you want to have a positive, encouraging impact on the world. And so to us, we blend it together. We want to increase our circle of influence, and we want it to be very personal in the way that we put ourselves out there online. So we do have the mediasystems.com website, of course, and that's a big deal. We have shirts, we've got the vans wrapped and all that. But if we also have this mural on our building that is just beautiful, that is Houston across the front, and people come and take their pictures there. And on the side, it says love, serve, and give. And it doesn't say anything about Media Systems on the mural at all. Foot traffic doesn't help our business. And so, but we put a QR code on the building that takes you to the story that gets you to Jacqueline and Donnie. So if people want to know what's going on professionally and they click far enough, they will find that. But what we're trying to, I hate the word marketing. It's not even marketing. We're sharing our lives with the world and doing what we can to increase our circle of influence so that we can be a positive impact in the world. But the byproduct of that is that people know what we do. And when they need somebody to do it, they remember, oh yeah, Jacqueline and Donnie do that. And so, like, we got a call yesterday from a girl that goes to our church. We used to be in a Bible study with. We see her on occasion, not very often. She's super sweet. And she thought, oh, well, I'm building this house, and these AV people that my builder hired, they work out of their truck. They don't seem like they're like a company. And so Jacqueline and Donnie, they do that. So maybe they'll come over and at least give me some advice, And so we said that, hey, as your friend, we'll give you some advice. If you want to hire us, that's fine. If you don't want to, we'll still give you some advice about it. So we're going to go visit with her this week and help her through it. So it's very intentional about relational marketing, if that's a term. I don't even know. It's like, everybody likes to say bad things about the Kardashians, right? But what did she do? Jacqueline always reminds me, she made people feel like they were her friend. And I'm not trying to be inauthentic, in that, but I really do. I look on my Facebook and I see people that I haven't seen since high school. And I love these people. Just because I haven't seen them lately doesn't mean I don't think they're awesome and would not love to sit down and have a meal with them or something. So we're just trying to be as personable as we can be with social media. And increase our circle of influence.
Well, I think what's impressive for those that are listening, those that are watching me click through the Instagram. And by the way, if you want to go to their Instagram, you go instagram.com/Jacqueline and Donnie. So that's JACLYN and AND Donnie, DONNIE. And these posts are getting, I'd say much better engagement, meaning likes or comments, than frankly most posts out there for most integrators. There's 40, 30, 40, 50, some as high as 80 or 90 engagements happening on these posts. And I think that's really impressive. Just to state the obvious, what is it like to work with your spouse in the business?
Well, we worked together really well before we worked together. And I remember one day after she had started working in the office, Steve pulled me aside and he said, it's kind of too bad that she's a really great photographer and has this business, because the whole mom and pop thing, that's really not a bad idea for you. Maybe that's something y'all might talk about or whatever. And she was doing really well, better than a teacher's salary, as a photographer. She had billboards all over Houston. She did real estate photography. And she really kind of, gave that up in order to be a part of the family business, which is really great. It was really gracious of her to be willing to do that. Now, she, of course, is still an amazing photographer and continues to shoot. But, she could see the benefit of what this could become for our family. And, I think we're kind of an anomaly. I wish we weren't, but there's a book called Cherish by an author, Gary Thomas, and it's about marriage. And he called us on the phone one day and was like, how do you work together? I'm writing a book about marriage. How do you work together? Can you answer a few questions? And we knew him through mutual friends. And he said, what is it like? And so we just started sharing stories with him about what it means to cherish your spouse and what marriage ought to be like. And he put them in his book. You could go read this book.
Wow.
And we're the bookends in the book. He said, normally I would change the names for the illustrations I get, but I have so many of your stories that I want to share in the book about marriage. That is it okay if I just use your name? And we're like, well, sure. Yeah, that's fine. And so then he's doing a new book, and he interviewed us again for the new one. So, I don't know if it's it's about having the same value system, about having the same beliefs, about having the same goals, about having the same. Now we don't always see things the same way, of course. Her function professionally is to make sure that we turn a profit. And my function professionally is to make sure that the client loves us and is not mad. And those things are, the opposite end of the spectrum. And so we sit down together, and Chase is a good balancer for those issues too, where we'll sit down and say, okay, I obviously want to just give it away for nothing. Jacqueline's like, well, no, you gotta, you can't do that.
Unless you want to work for free.
Right. Right. So we're able to be a good balance for each other on a lot of issues, but on other things, we'll meet with the client and we always say, can you see if your wife will come too? And so we sit down with a couple and we talk to them, get to know them, spend some time together. What do you love about the tech in your home? What do you hate about it? And many times we're marriage counselors. We've been doing this new teaching series on parental controls for Wi-Fi, and just helping parents navigate through that. We've taught some lectures at the kids' school about that. And so we've had this response where parents have come back to us and they start the discussion about, well, how do I make sure my kid's not looking at porn on the internet? But the conversation inevitably turns into parenting. Well, no, you it's okay to say no to your child. They can't do that. It's not healthy for them. So we have that. That's kind of another way that we're doing what we can to be an impact in the world. But working with Jacqueline is wonderful because I already, most of the time, just about know what she's thinking. She knows what I'm thinking. We have the same end goal. We have the same values. We have the same love for each other and for our employees and for our clients. And we feel safe with each other. We're not afraid to say something. We're not competing with each other. In many companies, you have staff that are competitive with each other. And that's a very tough situation to be in when you feel like you're not safe and you can't share information because you're in competition with somebody that you work with for their job or for your job. We don't have that. We feel very safe and very comfortable with each other. And I think that we are trying to model a healthy relationship so that the relationships with our employees going down the line in the company, that those are healthy relationships. And we can only do that through modeling with each other. But it's and we have date night. Sometimes we talk about work a little bit. Sometimes we don't.
I was gonna say, do you have rules on date night that there's no media systems talk?
Sometimes it's like I wouldn't say it's a hard rule, but she may be, how women, they're thinking of, I don't mean this in a bad way. They're thinking about 15 things at a time because they can, and we can't really do that. That's, how we're a little different. And so sometimes I want to talk about sushi and I don't want to talk about TVs,
Right.
but there's a give and take there. And so if we always say,
but she's the one dealing with the vendors and dealing with supply shortages and all of that. And so she has you captured, and maybe that's the conversation she wants to have.
There are certainly times when she needs my attention on an issue, and she's kind enough and sensitive enough to know that I've got my head buried in something else right now. And so she'll hang on to that until it's a good time to bring it up. And she may even say, is this a good time to talk about whatever, before she does. And, but that's, Chase actually does our ordering. So he's the one dealing with the supply chain problems right now. But we're all dealing with it, right? So
as an industry, we're dealing with it. All right. I'm mindful of time. We're actually at the hour mark right now, believe it or
not.
Wow. you
Sorry,
blink.
just gift of gab.
No, it's great. But I want to touch on one or two last quick subjects. One is Jacqueline is an amazing photographer, and your website is filled, and what I'm sharing the screen for those watching are just, I'm going through your galleries of images, and you guys have just done a fantastic job.
There's not a single stock photo on any of our materials anywhere.
Yeah, that's so rare. So maybe just we go to 30,000 feet and speak philosophically. And the answer can't be just because we could, because Jacqueline's a photographer.
Yeah.
That would be a cheat code. How did you know in your business to be marketing your work through regular capture of imagery? Because that's not done enough, in my opinion, as the marketing company. It's just so rare. I mean, we struggle to get good original content.
Yeah. Well, Jacqueline, having had her background in real estate photography, she would use the phrase pictures sell houses. And that's really part of the challenge for us. All of us that do what we do is that we're trying to hide the technology in the home. And so many times we have some magazine articles that we've been involved in. And last week I was asked to write captions for photos, and I'm looking at a photo that doesn't show any of our products. It's just a beautiful home. So I have to write a caption saying, well, actually they can control the lighting through Josh AI voice, or they can, control the music, in every room. And I'm trying to explain what's going on, but you can't see that in the picture. And I would say too that, it may have been when we had dinner with you and Alex from Josh AI that he said to me, and he's such a great mentor to so many people in this business. He said, we have a strategy with social media, and it's this kind and that kind of picture and that kind of picture and this kind. And one of those things he said was just beautiful architecture, and so I remembered that, and I took that. I was thankful to have his influence and say that if you just show something beautiful, what do these people want from you? They want their home to be beautiful. Our mission statement that we came up with in 2015 is, after reading Simon Sinek, start with the why. Mm-hmm. We believe that technology in your home should be easy to use, beautifully designed, and unbelievably reliable. That beautifully designed part, that's what people care so much about. That. And if you're willing to play ball with the interior designer, man, you're a rare guy, a rare person, because so many people in our industry are just so sure of themselves, and they're hired because of their confidence. That's good. But on the other hand, you should be able to work with designers and help people come up with beautiful spaces. And I think that's been a great extension into our social media presence, is that people want to look at something that's really unique or really beautiful or really interesting or really different. They don't want to look at batteries,
Yeah, no. So
racks.
you mentioned this, and when I got the opportunity to meet you and Jacqueline was at I want to say it was at a Crestron training. I'm gonna go. Do you remember what year that was? Maybe
I don't. It was a long time ago.
It was years ago,
yeah,
but
yeah.
And Alex actually had invited Alex from Josh AI had invited you guys, invited me to have dinner with him that night. And so just to talk about voice and where is voice at in your business today? I'm always curious. And frankly, I'm going to put out there my observation, which is, and I'm not picking on Josh or Google or Amazon or all the other solutions. It's a fairly polarizing topic with integrators. At least that's what I find. And I find people love it or maybe don't love it. Dare I say the opposite of love.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at with voice?
I try to get to know the customer and, understand what they care about and what they don't care about. Everybody has a different value on a different thing. I had a customer one time that was offended when I told them that, somebody might spend $700 on a pair of ceiling speakers, and he was offended by that while he was wearing his Ferragamo shoes that cost about $1,500, and he drove up in a $300,000 Ferrari. So everybody's got a different value and that they place on different things. My sister does not have any automation in her home. She has the Amazon Alexa in her kitchen, and that's good enough for her. And she was over at the house recently, and she said, "Can I just say what song I want to hear with this?" And like that's so normal to people, especially with DIY products, to just be able to say it. I mean, you can say, "Hey Mercedes," and the car will respond to you now, which is just mind-boggling that everything is being integrated with voice. Now, on the other hand, I remember studying this many years ago that women have a certain number of words they say in a day, and men say about half that number. So it's like 15,000 words versus about 7,000 or 8,000 words a day. Some men just don't say as many words, and they don't want to say as many words. And at the end of the day, the last thing they want to do is talk to something. They want to hit a button. But
interesting.
Yeah, but on the other hand, some people, and some things are just easier with voice than they are with screens and buttons. Some things are easier with screens and buttons. So you have to get to know people and figure out what they care about, what they're going to use. And I feel like for me, the way that I use voice is with the macro stuff, the big things like I'm home. And we've got Josh integrated with Crestron, and so all the Josh welcomes us home, and all the lights come on. Hey, Micro, the kids are in bed. I'll get the lights, and then everything does what it's supposed to do. But some things I do on timers. I don't hardly ever open and close my shades and drapes, because that's easier for me. So I feel like voice is not the be all end all way of controlling things, but if you don't have it, then it's not normal to people because voice has become so normal, and I feel like the privacy thing is what gets us the Josh sale rather than having to fuss with Amazon or Google.
My son is 12, and this year, really, since March of 2020, he's been doing the school from home deal downstairs. Next school year, he's going to go back to the classroom. So he's excited. We're excited. But I've been able to witness firsthand his relationship with Google because he has a little, I don't even know what it's called, but like a picture frame that scrolls pictures, and it has Google Voice embedded in it, and he will literally talk to that thing all day long. Oh, wow. Like my wife will just observe, and he'll ask it random questions. He'll set timers. He'll ask it some arithmetic. He'll just, and it's just, and we'll be in a discussion at the dinner table, and it'll be, we won't know the answer, and he'll just lean over and go, "Hey Google, da 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 da." And I'm like, that's not going to know the answer. And then she'll talk in perfect English right back. Oh,
Yeah.
da 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 da. I'm like, I never even would have thought to ask Google that question.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
used to-
wondering if there's an age thing. Like you mentioned, maybe there's
Yeah.
a sexist component to it. Maybe there's an ageist component to it. Maybe there's there's probably lots of ways to slice it in terms of who has an affinity to use voice and for what purpose.
You know, I think too that I used to watch 2001 Space Odyssey and think there was Hal, and Hal did everything, and Hal was the whole thing, the whole system. And I don't think like that anymore. When you watch the sci-fi shows, like I remember this funny show I used to watch called Eureka, where the home was the system and that was it. Well, that's what Hollywood gave us, but we don't have that. You can walk into the room and talk to Josh and have Josh control the house. And then you could walk into the next room and ask Alexa, what year Benjamin Franklin died, I mean, and that's okay. It could be that, I mean, we've got different products in our home. We've got Sony or Samsung or Marantz or Macintosh or Denon or whatever. We have all these different products. It's possible that we're going to have different voices in our home, and that's okay. I may get in the car and you say, hey, Ford or Chevrolet or whatever it is for those cars, or I may go into my house and say, hey, okay, Josh, or I may go into the kids' room and say, hey, Google, or I may go to my phone and say, hey, Siri. We've got a community of robots that are around us now, and it's nothing wrong with that. Everything doesn't have to integrate if it's doing something different. It's nice to have everything under one platform, but the point of it is it easy to do what you're trying to do? And if what you're trying to do is a research paper, then maybe it's easier to use the Google than it is to use some other platform, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't mean that I want to use the Google for everything, because I don't want the Google to know what I'm doing all the time.
Jacqueline, your wife, is tuning in, and she actually just posted, she said, also, Josh AI just heard you say the kids are in bed, and it turned off the light. So that's awesome. Jacqueline, thank you for posting that. Oh, she also posted that I guess we met back in 2018 at one of the Crestron trainings. Yeah. Donnie, it's been a blast having you on the show. This was episode number 172. I think we might have just set the record for the longest show at 71 minutes.
Yes.
So it's all about being number one. And for those that are listening in, watching live, and they want to follow you or maybe get in touch with you, what do you recommend they do?
Well, our website is very simple, mediasystems.com. You can find us there. Instagram at Jacqueline and Donnie, JACLYN and AND, Donnie, DONNIE, is also a great way to find us. I think those are probably just leave it there, but mediasystems.com, probably the easiest thing.
Awesome. Donnie, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, there you have it. Show number 172 with Donnie Boutwell, CEO of Media Systems. I think next time we'll have to have he and Jacqueline on. I think that would only be fair. You know what? Maybe we'll have Jacqueline on, and then we'll have Donnie in the on the sideline also commenting and watching. It'll be fun to compare those stats, by the way. So, Donnie, I think we're going to have to make that happen. But I hope you all are happy and healthy. I hope you're all getting vaccinated. And I know my son has about another week of school, and then there'll be the celebration of summer, and we have a lot of fun activities planned, and I'm sure many of you out there are the same. So until next time, I will definitely be thinking of all of you, and I would love you thinking of One Firefly. So if you have not already done so, please follow us on Instagram at One Firefly LLC. And additionally, if you have not already done so, make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you want to listen to the shows on the go. And you can do that by just going to your favorite app, whether that be Spotify, or I happen to listen to mine on Apple Podcasts, and just search Automation Unplugged. And until next time, here is our website, onefirefly.com. You can also feel free to give us a call. And I will see you all next week. Thanks, everyone. Be well.